I begin the program with two questions. As I sit here and contemplate, can you think of any reason why there shouldn't be the requirement for voter identification that you are a citizen when you vote? Can you think of any reason, that you shouldn't have to show a legitimate voter identification? Number two, can you think of any reason why a non-citizen should be permitted to be on a voting list for a state? A non-citizen can be on a voting list for a state, thereby capable of voting. Can you think of any reason to permit that? Well, I want to tell you what's going on in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it's not just in Virginia, in other states too. Let me give you an example in Virginia. The biggest county in Virginia by far is Fairfax County. It's got well over 1 million people, probably 1.2. It's the biggest county outside of Washington, D.C. It used to be Republican, but now, of course, it's filled with Democrats. And the Fairfax Republican Party put out a release. Today, the Fairfax County Republican Committee condemned the U.S. Department of Justice, listen to this, for interfering in Virginia's voting process by suing Governor Youngkin for fulfilling his role in assuring that only legal citizens are able to vote on November 5th. The Virginia Constitution itself states, quote, each voter shall be a citizen of the United States, unquote. That is a requirement, period. So Governor Youngkin, he issues Executive Order 35 and explains that in the brief 18-month period between January 2022 and July 2024, the Virginia Department of Elections, or what they call elect, removed 6,303 non-citizens from the voter rolls. We are proud that Governor Youngkin is defending the citizens of the Commonwealth by cleaning up our voting rolls, said Katie Gorka. That's right, our buddy Sebastian Gorka's wife, chairman of the Fairfax County Republican Committee. For too long, the DMV did not provide legally mandated data, and the Department of Elections, or elect, did not demand it. So here you have the bureaucracy that didn't follow up, purposely. As a result, non-citizens registered and voted in the past. Governor Youngkin is now simply following the law to ensure that Virginia voters are not disenfranchised. The Department of Justice, the Harris-Biden Department of Justice, has brought a lawsuit in an attempt to thwart this action and push for non-citizens to vote. One more example of the Harris-Biden administration wielding the DOJ for their political purposes. So for more than a decade, Virginia bureaucrats allowed thousands of non-citizens onto Virginia's voter rolls. And from at least 2011 to present day, thousands of non-citizens have been permitted to register to vote in Virginia, enabled by the Department of Motor Vehicles from 2013 to May 2023, 10 years. The DMV did not provide to elect the office that oversees elections the document numbers obtained from legally present non-citizen DMV customers as required by law. These document numbers would have enabled elect to verify the citizenship status of voter registrants via use of Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements Program, or SAVE, operated by the DHS. Prior to August, elect also failed to use the SAVE program to verify the citizenship status of both newly registered voters and existing voter registrations, even though elect has had the ability to use the SAVE program since 2014. Using the SAVE program, states and localities can verify easily legally present non-citizen immigrant status and also their naturalization acquired U.S. citizenship status. And elect and general registrars do not verify the Social Security numbers of non-DMV voter registrations with the Social Security Administration. For these registrations, the Social Security numbers are not even checked to ensure the numbers match to the holder's correct name and date of birth. Gorka said, we have hundreds of election workers and poll watchers to help protect the integrity of this election. But there's no way for us to verify if the people voting are actually citizens, because the DMV and the Office of Elect keep that information hidden from the people they claim to serve. That is, the citizens of Virginia. And so this is why Youngkin's actions are so important. But in addition to the Harris-Biden regime lawsuit, two groups, the so-called Virginia Coalition for Immigration Rights and the League of Women Voters of Virginia, are suing to restore non-citizens to the voter rolls and to stop any further removal of non-citizens. So these leftist groups are also using campaign tactics to push non-citizens to register and vote on Election Day. So you hear all the time, where's your evidence of voter fraud? It's right here. It's right here. Now, Governor Youngkin, he was on the Constipated News Network yesterday with Fake Tapper, and I want you to listen to this. It starts with fake, and then it goes to Youngkin. Cut 6, go.
The reason why this quiet period was put into law under the federal law is because these purging programs, I'm not singling out Virginia's, but in general, purging programs are error-filled.
And all right, let's stop a minute. Here's what he gets wrong. If you know that the DMV and this elections office have not been scrutinizing their voter rolls for non-citizens on their voter rolls so they can vote, there's no requirement in the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that you allow fraud to occur, none whatsoever. Quiet period or no quiet period. And so here, there's no question that there's no mistakes. It is affirmatively taking place. Go ahead.
We're not citizens who have since gotten their citizenship, are mistakenly taken off the rolls. Sometimes it's just the same name. Sometimes the government just screws up. And so that's the reason for the 90-day period. Why not just honor that 90-day period?
Well, let me just first begin. It's anything but a purging program. It begins with someone identifying themselves as a non-citizen. And I guess I would posit back to you, do you think that non-citizens, when they've self-identified as a non-citizen, should stay on the voter roll and therefore be in a position to potentially vote in a presidential election?
I don't think
so. Let's stop a minute. So in other words, these forms, citizen, non-citizen, and so forth and so on, these people check off that they're non-citizens. But the DMV and the election office do not take that information to make sure they're not on voting rolls. They're automatically put on these voting rolls. And so this isn't a matter of a mistake. The people themselves are checking non-citizen. Go ahead.
Non-citizens should vote. How are they self-identifying? How does that happen?
They actually tick a box that says, I am a non-citizen, or they do not answer the question that they are a citizen. And therefore, they self-identify that they are not a citizen in the United States of America. And this is why this is so out of bounds in my mind from the Justice Department. They fully understand this. They understand the process starts with a person self-identifying as a non-citizen, and then there is a match with that person's name on the voter rolls, and they are given not just one, but up to 3 times in order to try to cure it. And this is why I find this to be a very, very unreal moment that is stunning, that they filed this suit 25 days before a presidential election, when in fact this has been going on in accordance with our Constitution, the federal Constitution, and state law since 2006.
You understand? These violations have been going on since 2006, and the Department of Justice waits until now to bring this lawsuit. Why? Because it won't be resolved before the election. This is a very diabolical, evil Department of Justice. One more, cut 7, go.
I guess the only thing I would say is, and I'm not here to represent the Justice Department, but 6,300 people is a lot. I don't know that every time everybody checks a box, they know what they're checking. I think a lot of people mess up when they check boxes. And there is this federal law of 90 days. And I just wonder, when you knew this was going on, did you not know that the law was you can't do this within 90 days of an election, or was it just it was just rolling and nobody even thought about it?
No, it actually doesn't contravene the federal law at all. And in fact, because it is done on an individualized basis, person by person, and because that person has in fact self-identified as a non-citizen, this is not subject to the 90-day blackout period, in my view, and in counsel's advice.
So they're not just blowing people off this list. They're looking at individuals who've checked non-citizen. You've checked non-citizen. You have identified yourself as somebody who shouldn't be on the voting lists. The DMV and the so-called elect office, they put them on the voting lists anyway. And so the governor's trying to take them off. The Department of Justice intervenes 25 days before the election, says, no, the 90-day period. And what the governor said, this has nothing to do with the 90-day period. We're looking at individuals that check the no citizen box. It's a violation of state constitutional law, federal constitutional law. And the Justice Department says, no. And they did this with another state. So I don't want to hear anymore that there's no voter fraud, because you see the League of Women Voters and this phony ethnic front group, they come in and they sue and challenge it too. They want these people on the rolls. Why? So they vote. They don't want voter ID. Why? So people who don't have a right to vote, vote. What could possibly be, legitimately, another motivation for this? And this is going on in a lot of places. And it's the Democrats who are defending it. It's the Harris-Biden Justice Department. And you might recall a few months ago, I did a story on how Biden signed an executive order that was secret for the longest time, where people are signing up for federal benefits and so forth. They're signing up. That information is being used to put people on voting rolls. And so they're purposely exploiting this throughout the country. And this is why I say you got to vote early. And you got to vote in big numbers. And you got to be the Paul Revere's. You got to be the Thomas Paines. You got to get your friends and everybody else out to take care of this, so we can end this kind of institutionalized voter fraud, is what I call it. Institutionalized voter fraud once and for all.